So I'm here to recap a very good fight between Byron Rojas and Knockout CP Freshmart for the full WBA Strawweight Championship, full 105-pound championship. This being basically what it seems like the first of the unifications that the WBA is supposed to be doing across all the divisions. Byron Rojas was the champion, the full champion, while Knockout CP Freshmart was the interim champion. So these are the first two guys to actually unify WBA titles, and Knockout CP Freshmart wound up coming out victorious in a 12-round unanimous decision over Byron Rojas in a fight that took place in Thailand in Knockout CP Freshmart's home country. And it was a very good fight, a little bit ugly at times, but overall high quality between two of the top fighters in the division. I mean, just to let you guys know, going into this fight, Byron Rojas was rated number 2 by Ring Magazine. Knockout CP Freshmart was rated number 4 in the division. As well as on the FightNews.com ratings, Byron Rojas was rated number 1, while Knockout CP Freshmart was rated number 7. And then for further, overall look at where these guys were rated, BoxRec had Knockout CP Freshmart rated at number 2, and Byron Rojas rated at number 5 going into this fight. So basically, we had two of the top 5, arguably top 3 fighters in the division facing off against each other. This is something that I kind of referenced when Thurman and Porter fought each other going into that fight, and then as well as after the fight. And we're going to see a little bit more of in the lower weight classes over the next couple of months. But I'll get to that in a second. As for this fight, it was a very good fight. Byron Rojas, of course, many people primarily remember from pulling off the 25-1 upset over Hecky Butler earlier this year. Huge upset. And then, of course, Knockout CP Freshmart being the first ever unified Muay Thai champion, and now a unified WBA strawweight champion in boxing. Only 13 fights in too, into his pro career as far as being a boxer. Of course, he had a much longer Muay Thai career before he transitioned over. But early on, Byron Rojas came out as soon as the opening bell rang. Came out very aggressively as he tends to do, as he did against Hecky Butler, what basically won him the title. Very aggressive against Freshmart. Freshmart was having trouble keeping him at a distance, keeping him in range to be able to potentially time him. Rojas was going to the body, going to the head, just a wild style, a bit reminiscent of a Ricardo Mayorga, albeit a little bit more controlled. I thought he won the first round. Knockout CP Freshmart came out a little bit more poised in the second round, knowing a little bit better how to deal with him. But overall, it was another good round. Back and forth action. I thought Freshmart got the second round. The third and the fourth, I wound up giving to Rojas. I thought his technique, his abilities, his boxing was a little bit better. I thought he was landing a little bit cleaner punches. Freshmart was clinching just a little bit too much, smothering his own work a little too much with regard to Rojas. I thought it was landing just the cleaner shots, while Freshmart wasn't able to quite land as clean or effectively in those rounds. I then gave the fifth and the sixth to Freshmart. I thought he turned the tide a little bit, managed to start timing Rojas a little bit better, and started the time kind of like clinching, like where he would land a couple shots, immediately start clinching. And this is where the fight really started to get ugly. There was a good bit of clinching in the first half of the fight, but it wasn't getting in the way of the action quite as much. In the second half of the fight is really where the clinching started to really get in the way of the action. A lot of that due to Knockout CP Freshmart initiating stuff in order to throw Rojas' offense off. And then part of it just being the fact that a lot of times both guys were throwing at the same time. And with them both being fairly short, neither of them necessarily had an overt advantage on the inside. Although you could say that Freshmart had more of the advantage in terms of being able to get lower, get his center of gravity lower, and being able to ratchet off shots more easily, whereas some of Rojas' stuff came a little bit too over the top, and he would miss with some of those over the top type shots. But I give those couple of rounds to Freshmart. He started to go on a little bit of a rally. Because then Rojas didn't win another round until the 11th after the 7th. And the 11th round was a very good round for Rojas, a round that he was needing because I thought Freshmart was pulling away with the fight. I think both he and the crowd thought so too, because Freshmart was able to basically get a little bit lower and make his shots cleaner before initiating clinch. In a way that started to really frustrate Rojas. He almost actually got a point taken away for headbutting because he had both arms locked up, and he almost tried to do what Maidana did to Broner, where it's like he like headbutted right into Broner's jaw. Rojas did a similar thing with Freshmart, although the ref gave him a stern warning, and then he stopped doing that after that. Um, Rojas wound up winning the 11th with a little bit cleaner punching, but then the 12th, I thought Freshmart managed to come back and basically scrape that one, giving him 7-5 on my card, and it was 7-5 across all of the official judges' scorecards as well, 115 to 113. That was a close fight. Thought it could have been a draw, but if you look at the overall body of work that both fighters did, I thought Knockout CP Freshmart's work was a little bit more consistent and a little bit more cleaner throughout the entire fight. Especially once things got into the second half. I thought Rojas started off really good, but once Knockout CP Freshmart was able to kind of start timing punches and clinches, I thought Rojas got a little bit too frustrated and got taken a little bit out of his game plan to a certain degree, and so that wound up hurting him overall in the grand scheme of things. So now Knockout CP Freshmart is the full and the only WBA champion at strawweight at 105 pounds, aka mini flyweight. And it's going to be interesting to see who he winds up fighting next. And this is just the start of a number of really good fights that are upcoming at flyweight and below. This Saturday, we have a couple of big fights. Actually, on Friday, I think, is when Jose Argumedo, the IBF champion, is going to be defending his title against routine defense against Julio Mendoza. And that should be another good fight. I believe Julio Mendoza is a stablemate of Byron Rojas, who, of course, they would both be then stablemates of Roman Gonzalez, the biggest star at these lower weight classes. And Jose Argumedo is definitely a rising star in Mexico at strawweight with the IBF title. And then you also have in Mexico this weekend an interesting doubleheader between Ganigan Lopez and Jonathan Taconing of the Philippines, and Ganigan Lopez's rival Pedro Guevara. That they had a little bit of an interesting rivalry. Pedro Guevara defeated Ganigan Lopez before he went on to win a title at 105 pounds, who he then lost it to Yu Kimura of Japan in a controversial, I believe it was a split decision that Kimura won. And then Ganigan Lopez went over to Japan and dethroned Kimura in a clear-cut unanimous decision, went over him. But, I mean, they're both in dangerous fights, and especially Lopez is in a very dangerous fight. Jonathan Taconing is a very big puncher, southpaw, unorthodox style. Although a very similar style to Ganigan Lopez's. They're both a little bit high-volume brawling types. Although Lopez is a little bit more of a brawler boxer, Taconing is more of a brawler puncher. So it'll be interesting to see how their styles match up with regard to Ganigan Lopez's height and length advantage compared to Taconing's power advantage. And then later on in August, I believe August 4th, is when Wanheng Manayoten, the WBC strawweight champion, is going to be going up against Saul Juarez, who's actually the #1 rated fighter by BoxRec at 105 pounds. A guy that's had success at 108 and 112 against bigger, stronger opponents, but at 105, is the lowest weight that he can make, of course, the lowest weight in boxing. So Juarez is a little guy. He's only about 5 feet tall, if that. And Wanheng Manayoten, I think, is maybe about 5'1", 5'2". But just two very, very good fighters. Probably the top 2 fighters in the division facing off against each other. Saul Juarez doesn't have any championship belts to his name, but he's beaten a number of current and former champions at 108 and 112 pounds, which is saying a lot. So it'll be interesting to see basically the class of the division fight against the guy that potentially is the most dangerous in terms of being able to upset the odds, upset the apple cart. Because Saul Juarez has a very unorthodox, almost Gamboa-esque style. Hops out, very athletic, very explosive, jumps inside with a lot of punches. Wanheng Manayoten's a little bit more of a boxer puncher, more traditional boxer puncher style. And just a number of really good fights coming up in this division. Knockout CP Freshmart may wind up fighting Hecky Butler sooner or later if Hecky Butler chooses to stay at 105 if he doesn't move up. Or he may wind up fighting Ray Loreto, who's another dangerous fighter. A big puncher. A guy that knocked former strawweight champion Nkosonati Joyi, the former #1 fighter at 105 pounds, knocked him clean out in their rematch against each other. Just a brutal knockout. Probably one of the more brutal knockouts you'd ever see at these weight classes. But big ups to Knockout CP Freshmart. This is a very good fight. Link, as usual, is going to be in the description of this video. And, I implore you guys to check it out. Very good fight between two top-level fighters at the weight class. So, with all that said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.